All right, let's go. Welcome back, everyone, to It's Just for Fun podcast, and a podcast about the manager game Expert 11 with me, David, or Bonen 223. And for those guys who asked about that, Bonen after the cyclist Tom Bonen. Actually, you should look him up if you're not a cyclist fan. He was good in his days, so to speak. And with me today, I have, as usual, Daniel. Welcome to the podcast, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very much welcome. And you will be sort of the quiet one today, as you have gone through, as myself, you've gone through COVID recently, and your voice, as mine, it tends to will
Higher.
fade away after half an hour or so, right?
Yeah.
That's it, right? So, but you're good to go today. Rather good to go today.
Yeah.
Yeah, as good as can be, right? Mm-mm. And with us today also we have a guest, our second guest in English, and that's also partly why we do this in English, of course. Last time we had Blob with us, or Robert, and today we're going to Scotland for this guest, right? It's IzzySantino on the site, or Graham. Welcome very much to the show, Graham.
Hi David, hi Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm
We're
fine.
fine.
I'm fine. We're fine.
Good.
As fine as we can be, right? As fine as we can be.
Good to hear it. Thanks for having me on, by the way, and congratulations on the two of you cracking on with this project. And looks like our coming together was somewhat meant to be.
Yeah, well,
timing.
thanks.
Mm.
It's been a great start. It's been a really great start, and it's been also, I should address all of you who are listeners to this. It's been an amazing thing to actually experience the kind of support that's we've been experiencing for the last couple of months here with not only from the Swedish community but from the entire Expert 11 community in terms of giving us all the love out there and all the hate also. No, I'm just kidding, but all the love out there for for trying to kickstart this the entire site basically. So many thanks for that. And for that also, Graham, you have been a big part also in terms of being sort of our graphic designer now, right? In many ways, unpaid, of course, unpaid voluntary graphic designer, right? How does that feel, or has it been a fun start for you?
It's been fun always. I love creating and being able to keep up to date with certain trends and trying different genres of graphics. It just helps and it keeps me up to date with everything. So, and it helps when you have a passion for something as well. So, oddly enough, I have a passion for Expert 11 and graphics. So,
Yeah,
makes a good combination. This.
a perfect combination, sort of, right? And of course, we're going to go into your entire Expert 11 career and what made you end up on the site. Also, and we're going to go through the whole your background story. Right? How did you end up with working as a graphic designer and the whole interest for making documentaries and all of that? Um,
Um,
but
sure.
yeah,
Everything seemed to happen at a young age for me. I was introduced to music possibly 5 or 6, and it was the Beatles, early Beatles, that I was exposed to,
yeah,
and then around age 7 or 8, I was exposed to Guns N' Roses through
yeah,
my
yeah.
brother, and then I remember hearing that music and thinking, "What's this music?" You know, it wasn't any lovey-dovey type stuff. It was proper music that I don't know matched the angst even at such a young age that I had. It just seemed to match perfectly, and uh, through Guns N' Roses, it's what made me want to play guitar. So it all stemmed from something,
Yeah,
and I like visual art as well as auditory art. So uh, I just always threw myself into artistic things, and it's never left me basically.
that's great to hear. And music can be such a huge inspiration for doing that. You know, it's when you really when you really gets into music and you really gets inspired by it, it really becomes part of you for your entire life, right? In terms of really always being an inspirational force, I reckon at the very least, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always, I've always had a fascination with storytelling music, and like people who aren't afraid to actually put down into words who they are or what experiences they've had. And I think people will always gravitate towards a passion or
Yeah.
to someone who is experiencing their passion. Um, I think I think there's a human trait in all. There's something in all of us that can spot something fake uh, a mile off, and yeah, I mean, I got all of those things through Guns N' Roses, and then a couple of years ago, I put together a documentary about one of their guitarists because that thing is always there. You know, it's always a comfort to go to. It's always a nostalgic thing. You can always think back to the first time you ever heard it or a certain moment in your life. It's a part of who you are, and if you can find a passion within all that, then I think you're okay. You're good, especially if you've got a creative mind, basically.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And for those of you who doesn't know or don't know anything about Guns N' Roses, which would almost feel strange nowadays if you haven't ever heard of Guns N' Roses up until this date, you should educate yourself in music for once. Those of you listening to this, but a bit less known, I guess, for those of you who aren't into the band as such. IzzySantino. I guess Izzy comes from Izzy Stradlin, right? Stradlin, the guitarist from Guns N' Roses. Am I right
Correct.
in guessing that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And your video documentary, Dust and Bones, is also about Izzy more than Guns N' Roses. Am I correct about
That's
saying
right.
so?
Yeah. So Izzy, Izzy always stood out to me as a kid. Uh, as a kid, being wanting something to be impressed by, basically, and I was always impressed with Izzy Stradlin, just how sleazy he looked, you know, angsty, and it was then a bonus that the guitar that I liked hearing most on their first album belonged to Izzy Stradlin, so became a massive fan around about 8, and it's just again never left me. So when I was needing a name for Expert 11, I was like, yeah, Izzy will do it.
That's good. That's good, man. I can really relate to what you're saying also with the music. I don't think you can, Daniel, because you're not really the music fan of us, right?
Nope.
Which
I'm
we
not
have.
really into music at all, pretty much.
Yeah,
Still time, Daniel. Still time, my friend.
Yeah. I know it's kind of strange, but I just don't. I don't know. I was into music earlier, but nowadays I never listen to music for some reason.
Yeah.
It's not that I dislike it, just I don't. I just don't listen to it. I don't take the time to listen. Just sit down and listen to music. I don't know why. Just happened like that.
So for all of you guys listening to the show out there, if you are like Daniel, there is help to search and help to find in. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So no, but that's of course it's always going to be different. Some people like movies, and some people are into more. It's always different, right? It's always different with what you love and what you get into in life. But if you are into music, it almost feels strange when you hear like, I don't really listen to music at all. You're like, what? What? You?
Pretty much everyone thinks I'm strange for that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, pretty much everyone is into music, some kind of music. I mean, whether it's rock or whatever, it's they have something they like in music. I just don't listen to it. It's not that I dislike it. Just I just don't listen. I don't take the time
fair enough. Fair
for
enough.
some reason. I don't know why. Just this.
Me myself, I'm a big hardcore Bruce Springsteen fan, and I've been that since I was 12 years old, basically. And I've seen him
Nice.
over 50, 60 times live in Europe, and over on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean as well. I've seen him
Oh,
4
brilliant.
times in America too. Yeah, and it's been that it is like you say, really. It's part of this. Even now, when you reach your 30s and it's your childhood music in a way, but it's still always relevant to you if you've loved the music really, really much, it becomes part of your life story, and it's always sort of this inspirational motivation for you. And he's also a very big storyteller, so I completely agree with you there, Graham.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that kind of music is always, to me also, I always enjoy that the most when people dare to express things about their lives and what they're about as persons, basically, throughout their music. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of music, by the way, that's also one thing. Me and Daniel, we actually made a podcast in Swedish about a couple of weeks ago now. This Expert 11 podcast. When we went through the entire, I'm the new community manager of Expert 11, and we have this collaboration and this collaboration. So it's it's sort of I forget that now when we are recording once again because it's already been said, but in Swedish. So sorry for all of you listeners out there in English, right? But part of that is also that we actually have 2 music collaborations now, also that we have started up through the site with a Swedish band called Almostone from Karlsson in Sweden, a
Right.
rock band. Yeah, so they are providing their music for free to let us use it, right? And also another musician named Tomas Rimeika Karlsson. And I was thinking throughout the podcast, one in the middle of the podcast and also at the end of the podcast, I'm gonna play one of their songs from yeah, one for Almost One and one from Thomas as well. So you guys get to listen to the ones who helps us with providing good content and not just music that I put together myself for Instagram and Facebook on my computer. That sounds like just you guys know, just a bass going boom 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 and nothing else, right? So it's good to be able to have some good music also, right?
Yeah, good effort.
Yeah, well, so thanks to those guys also for helping out, and thanks to you also, like for the graphic designing. G.
Yeah, it's great just the way everything's coming together.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a nice buzz again. I've noticed the forums has been a little bit more active recently as well, so it's good. Long may it continue.
yeah, I read you, I read you. Maybe we should talk about a bit about that because I was thinking about the whole state of Expert 11, and like I said, me and Daniel, we've been speaking about it for so many hours, like so many hours that it's almost you have to sort of regroup and think about that. Well, what have we said in English that we we really should express here as well? But I was thinking about maybe, like we said before starting to record, that before going into the whole Expert 11 and really going into depth about your background with gaming and also,
Mhm.
Graham, um, we should perhaps mention the whole European situation. Should we just get it over with in order to, or get it over? Sounds almost disrespectful to say that, right? But I think it needs to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys say? Should we
Yeah, let's go
move
for it.
over? Yeah, let's go for armed conflict stuff. So, welcome to the armed conflict podcast. No, but just to let you guys know, of course, me and Graham and Daniel, before starting to recording this right now, we are very much aware that there is an armed conflict going on in Europe as we speak, as we record this, and we want to briefly touch upon it in a sort of as a way of showing our respect and our also what do you say our condolences for the whole situation and for the people on the ground in Ukraine and the border to Russia, of course, also, and the borders next to Ukraine. Um, it would feel kind of strange to be standing here today and recording this podcast without mentioning the situation. And it's when I speak for myself, all of us are, of course, extremely aware of the situation. All 3 of us, and me myself I've actually, when I studied at the university level in Sweden, I've studied 5 years peace and conflict studies and conflict resolution, looking at armed conflicts and looking at sort of conflict resolution in terms of out of an analytical point of view, so to speak. And I am very much, I am much aware of the fact that if we were to talk about armed conflicts and all the suffering that goes on in the world, we could be speaking about that for hours and hours and hours. And we're not going to take this manager game podcast and turn that into this war is going on right now and this conflict is going on right now. However, I do really urge each and everyone who listens to this show to really get yourself involved and engaged and educated and try to really be as good of people as you can be in a situation like this and open up your hearts to the people around you and the community around you, wherever you are, you who are listening to this. But we are going to move away from Ukraine in this podcast. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Our thoughts go out to the people in the area, so to speak, right? Do you have anything you want to add to it, guys, before we move on with the funnier stuff, so to speak?
Just that with this happening as well, I think it's important that people. I mean, it's fine to keep yourself up to date with everything, but make sure it doesn't actually overtake your life.
Yeah.
Because still things are being repeated over and over again on 24/7 news, and it's never good to hear something over and over again, especially if it's with such negativity. So it's trying to find a positive, and with the last 2 years coming out of a pandemic, we're still actually going through it. We now have potential of a full-scale war happening, and I think people just need to look after themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And like we said also before starting to record this podcast, that this is a way of, like you put it so elegantly, it is a way of escapism, really. And people should allow themselves to do that also, to try to find different sources of energy and positivity in their lives. And I guess that being managers at a manager game, or just as we do right now, having conversation and doing all our community building that we are trying to do, is one way of actually for ourselves also trying to put as much positive energy into our lives as well right now, even though there have been tough times for the last couple of years and still are, of course. So
agreed.
Yeah,
there's nothing worse than feeling absolutely helpless, and it's exactly how I feel right now about this war. And like what we were talking about earlier on, and you just alluded to, Expert 11 is a form of escapism, something to keep your own mind intact, something that you dedicate a little bit of time to, and these little things help along the way, So, and it could be the same with music, could be the same with just picking up a pen and just drawing something for a couple of hours. You do what you need to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I completely agree with you. And with that said, let's move on to Expert 11. Right? There's no segue really to go from that subject into Expert 11 as a manager game. So we're just gonna try to dive straight back into the fun stuff, so to speak. There's no segue to be done that will make it justice in a way, right? So let's roll, guys. Let's roll. So cheating and players getting banned. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not start with that, right? So
last time.
precisely. No, but you to get back to you and your manager career, so to speak, right? How did you actually come across the game Expert 11 as such?
Yeah.
Geraint. No, I'm saying Geraint either way because Geraint Thomas and oh my god, Graham, for God's sake. Yeah. I told you I was
What?
going to mix it up before, right? So, no, but seriously, how did you end up with finding Expert 11 and how did you get stuck with that game, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, I was introduced to it through the Betfair forum. I'm a bit of a football trader, and I just remembered this post. This guy saying, "I'm looking for some people to sign up to a fantasy football game. I need 4 people. If you sign up, we can get the season started." So I was like, "Okay, I like things like this." Big football manager guy, even back to the early Amiga days of the Championship Manager series.
Oh yeah.
So I've always been a fan with something that's data driven and something like that. And Expert 11 is kind of like the online version of a play by mail. And I don't know if you guys ever remember play by mails.
Oh,
It used to happen through the post.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Nice.
so a game would take place each week, and
Nice.
you would be sent the match report, the league table, the transfer market, and then you had this sheet at the very end where you had to fill in your tactics, and if you wanted to buy someone off the transfer market, you had to write it in there, put your bid in, and then post it back to the company. And I'm sure the one I used to play, and I cannot find any information on them anymore. And I wonder if anyone else possibly remembers. It was called Championship League, and it came in a red envelope, a red see-through envelope. If anyone remembers that, then they should totally comment because I would like to find out who else played that game.
That's
So
amazing. That's
yeah,
I've
so
never even
Expert
heard of that.
11. Oh, yeah, the play by mails. We used to get this football magazine called Shoot, and at the back of it, there was always these cutouts where you had to fill in your name and address, and then you'd send it away to this play by mail company, and then they would send you a welcome pack. And that's really how it all, well, how I got into it anyway, was through football magazines. And then that was
Hmm.
sort of it. And Expert 11's just an online version of that, so it's very nostalgic for me. And I've enjoyed my time since 2012. Anyway, it's been intermittently, just purely because of how busy I've been during that time, and not really dedicating enough time to the game. But I came back to it in 2019, and I've decided to do something with it.
Yeah,
try and
sure.
try and conquer this game. Put it to bed.
Yeah, you're doing quite a good work with, I would say, giving it's been a rather short time in Expert 11 terms at the very least that you have been running your UC0 and UC0 Feminile. What's the inspiration for those names, by the way? I see that you're a Sampdoria fan also, but is that
Yeah,
the Italian part that comes into it there, or?
yeah, absolutely. Became a Sampdoria fan in the early 90s through a Channel 4 program called Football Italia.
Ah,
And I became a fan of them purely because I really liked their strip. uh, I liked how uniformed Sampdoria looked. And Attilio Lombardo was playing at that time as well.
yeah, yeah.
And was fascinated with that guy. So, yep, been a Sampdoria fan since the early 90s and to this day. So
Yeah, sure. And they went to the was it the European Cup final there, right, in 91 or 92 also with
they did,
yeah,
and
was that
just
lost to
failed.
Barcelona, right?
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
no shame in that, my friend. No shame.
No, no, definitely not. Definitely not. That's quite an achievement to reach that level for sure. And that was also the era I seem to remember because I recently listened to a podcast in Sweden with Sven-Goran Eriksson, the English manager, or
Yeah.
the Swedish manager, of course, who took the English national team also to their different levels of success. Let's call it that, right? But he was at least very successful with Sampdoria and with Lazio as well, right?
Yeah.
And he
I
was there for
remember
a
his
while.
Lazio's team. That Lazio team was incredible, if I remember correctly.
Don't forget IFK Göteborg as well.
Gothenburg also. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, yes. Daniel, who is from Gothenburg in Sweden. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he
Can't mention the
actually.
Italian clubs for the Swedish ones. Bloody
No,
hell.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's right. Sven Goran. He actually. Yeah, he had a quite a run of success in in Gothenburg as well, of course, where he is sort of. I guess he was one of those managers who, if we want to look at it in expert 11 terms with Sven-Goran Eriksson, he was one of those guys who he implemented a system and he just stuck with it no matter what, basically, right? So it's like 4-4-2 always, and that's it. And you're gonna make that to perfection, right? And if and that actually worked quite good with the with when you had the right players at the right positions. I guess it could really work out for him. And when he
Definitely
hadn't,
helped.
yeah, definitely. And when he got outsmarted, basically, then it was he couldn't really adjust to it. So yeah. But looking at your UC0, then right?
Yeah.
Are you a manager who you would say adjust your tactics to your opposition or at all, or do you just go with the 4-5-1? That's it. That's it. Pressure and just 100% that way, right?
Well, that's how I used to play.
Yeah,
And I got to say it was incredibly boring.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember back in the day, a good couple of years ago,
yeah,
I'd done the sell your team and then just getting youngsters, and I just found it so boring. It was everything became predictable,
yeah,
and yeah, and it just seemed everyone was playing 3-5-2, 4-5-1, and when I took over and made it into the current team UC0 a good couple of years ago, I decided that well, I'd like to do everything in phases. So there was a rebuild needing done to this team that I took over, but I just changed it ever so slightly each season because I wanted to be competitive at the same time. I wanted to have a good time, not lose all the time, and
that's right.
certainly not play the same tactics. So
Yeah,
the team, we started off in Division 6 and we're in Division 2 now in the space of 7 years. And the team has just been in a constant slow phase rebuild.
yeah.
And I think we've reached our peak right now at Division 2. We're struggling now.
Yeah, I saw that also. Yes, for you guys listening out there, right? You have started out with, but it's not bad. It's not bad. It really isn't, right? You have 4 losses out of 4 games in Classic League Division 2B, but
Yeah.
it is with the goal difference is only, and I say that as a compliment, really, only a -6 after those 4 games. And if you look at the team in comparison to the opposition, right? You have to compare it to the opposition. And given the fact that you have still a lot of guys who are in the 17, 18, 20, 21, 24 region in terms of the age group, right? I guess that you're playing them also, right? The youngsters too.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, for
And
sure. It's not a bad achievement, man, even with 4 losses. It's how you
yeah,
lose. It's not that you you have to compete also, right?
I lose in style, my friend. That's
Yeah,
the name of the game. I win in style and I lose in style.
yeah, that's right.
um,
That's right.
but yeah, I'm actually okay with our goal difference because it could have been so much worse. I mean, we are the weakest team in that division, and we were the weakest team in Division 3 as well. A
Yeah,
complete massive achievement to go up through the playoffs,
yeah, for
uh,
sure.
and we. I think I have one or two players that it's a burden that they're high skilled. It's great that they are high skilled, but it's also a burden as well because it's the obvious ones to go and mark. But having said that, we're still battling well against the teams in Division 2. And we've had 3 Red Cross injuries this season. 3 Red Crosses in 3 weeks.
That is a hard start, right?
Yeah.
That's a tough one for sure, for sure.
So, and there's a great little story coming up as well. Our team reached the third round of the cup,
Yeah.
and we're facing a team called Team Pro, right? And they actually bought one of our club legends, Jack McCallan.
No,
So
really.
yes, that's the first time I've ever come up against a former player in the game.
My
So,
goodness gracious.
and he looks as though he's doing pretty well. So you better not
Yeah,
score
sure.
against us. But yeah, I thought that was a nice thing. You know, a bit of history there.
Yeah, for sure. Jack McAllen, who has got 7 points in 5 games this season, right? So you know what you're up for. But you should know him by now. You should know him by now, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But I only got two helpers in the cup, right? So, but well, of course, it seems to me in real life and also in games that for some strange reason the players that you know gets back at their own club, they usually do pretty good actually. So not to make any bad predictions for your team right there, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
don't say
you know,
those things.
yeah,
It's,
you know who to man mark, right, for that game. So yeah, and I really personally I really love that you're into the whole storytelling game part of the game also, right? And I guess that is one of the big things I really enjoy about manager games as such, because you have quite a big freedom with manager games in general to tell your own story throughout something that is it's really usually those games are quite static, right, in terms of how they are built up, which gives you, as the way I see it, much freedom to actually turn them into what you want with the team, fancy wise, right? So.
yeah, I mean, this has given me a platform to have something to do, especially through lockdown. You know,
Yeah.
it was like when I made the documentary, it came through having this extra time during lockdown. I mean, that was made in 12 weeks. And then, sorry, and then having UC0, trying to make it into something, taking it out of the actual platform that it's sitting in, and just having a spoof Twitter account as a spoof football team, and just posting updates and just doing nice graphics, just making it look like it's a proper football team. When
Yeah.
actual fact, it's an expert 11 fantasy football team. But there's a quirkiness in that, and I like taking things off platform and creating a history. Makes it worthwhile.
That sounds
Yeah,
nice.
for sure, for sure. And I guess that's there are still a lot of players. I think there are more players than that that we even know about that really wants to have that kind of an experience on not only on Expert 11, of course, but in the online community as such, really to wants to have that sort of the fantasy building also more than the simple, more than just the gameplay, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
We actually there was someone on the Discord channel, and for those of you listening, if you're not on the Expert 11 official Discord, you should of course join us there as well, where you are the boss, Daniel, right, keeping
Oh, yeah.
things in order.
I try my best.
Yeah, that's right. And that is actually also the official Expert 11 Discord channel now too, when we have been in discussions with the owner of the site also, and we are, and of course I'm actually now working for the site in a way that it still feels kind of strange to say that, but on the Discord at the very least, President Mr. Bean. I don't know if that's his manager name as well. Do you guys know that?
Not
President Mr.
sure.
Does that ring a bell?
No.
Because it's not always the same nickname on Discord as it is on the game. But anyway, he asked, "Is there any appetite for a fairly extensive league with world building and the like?" sort of like a domestic league of a fictional country? I would say to you, President Mr. Bean, yes, there is definitely that kind of appetite around the community. It really is. But it could be kind of hard to find the right people for that kind of a fancy bill, really, because it's not the easiest site, Expert 11, still to advertise the different types of leagues that are out there, because you always have to, especially when you're starting up a new league, it's always kind of a hazard to get people to notice, basically, right? But
Yeah, it's a great idea because there's so much potential for it.
it really is. Yeah.
Do you remember? Did you look into the link that I sent you, David, to the idea that I had for a fictional country, and it had two divisions?
Absolutely. That's partly why I take it up also, right?
Right.
Definitely. So I wanted to ask you how you came up with that idea, right? And how it came to fruition as such, right? And what were your intention? What was with that? And yeah,
Right, I see. Well, again, I had great intentions for it. It just became a bit of too much work
yeah.
for there not to be any interaction for it. So it's a pity because I just basically interfered with a football manager database. And I've got this story of this fictional country with its different regions, with different teams, different rivalries, built it all into the game, and just dawdled it up graphically. So I made 20 odd team logos and just tried to put it together just to see if people could get into a fantasy world where they don't actually have to participate in it. It'd just be like supporting
Yeah.
Rangers or Gothenburg, you know,
Yeah, sure.
but in a
Sure.
fantasy sense, and it's a fictional team. And the remnants of that try is still on Twitter at a Twitter site called at Fictball. So it's FICTBALL. It's something I would love to revisit, but as I say, it's too much effort and work to put together for nobody to be viewing it. And
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I read you, and I think actually that's part of why I really rejoined Expert 11. Actually, me myself, right? The whole thing, not because of your Twitter project, because I didn't know about that. So I should get back to Expert 11, but the whole thing about me and two of my oldest, closest friends, Dennis and Martin, or Big Black Bear and Paradoxinus, as they're called on the website. They actually sort of almost, I shouldn't say forced me back to the game, because it wasn't really that much forcing, but it took some alcohol for it to convince me, right? Yeah, you should really get back to this. You were really into this 10 years ago. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. But then I realized quite quickly the first week that Expert 11 still, after all this time, and I've been playing manager games also on my own throughout this time. Uh, it's such a good place in a way to be able to take your creativity, but you don't have to do it all, if you know what I'm saying, right? It's you're able to sort of pour your fantasy into a league, and you are actually able quite easily to find many people who are also into the same thing, and they keep sort of the project alive, but you are the driving force behind it. And that's what I really love about the site as such. We have a league in Sweden. It's all in Swedish basically, but it's called a boring name. It's called like Expert League, right? Expert League, and it's I think it's at number 4 in the world ranking right now, or something
oh,
like that.
nice.
Number 4 or 5. Yeah.
Well
It's good. It's fun. But we don't. We actually, I don't. It's more for if people want to find it rather than anything else. But
Yeah.
yeah, we actually don't.
Bragging.
Yeah. We don't care about the rank. We're number 4 in the world right now. No, but it was it was such a great thing when we started up the project, and we said we should just write our stories and go with our fantasy mode, and we have weekly written updates, and we do some small YouTube clips, and like I said before, a radio broadcast also for the and an own hall of fame for players and managers and that kind of stuff. And it's mostly written basically within the league.
Yeah,
But
that's
but
great.
we yeah, it's great fun. And with the 184 guys that we got into the league and girls also, I think we only lost like 15 people or something like that over a course of a year. It's been tremendous the way that people have sort of, written their own stories and found their own teams within the league, and it's amazing to see, really, that so much fantasy out there still, that it needs to go somewhere, right? As long as you can provide a league for it. So yeah.
Indeed. And going back to the potential that it has, is social media can be used as an extension.
Yeah, precisely.
And
Exactly.
because once you can take something off its original platform and make something, something interesting, which is still in relation to the game, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people can get more involved because you'll have instant feedback as well. And, some of the ideas you have, I'm excited about getting my teeth into them and making it aesthetically pleasing as well, because it helps.
Yeah.
Creates an identity, especially when you're coming off the original platform. So
Yeah, that's right. Most definitely. I actually got a message through the official channel from a guy named Federico Manzoni, right? Hi, Federico, if you listen to the podcast as well, right? I hope you do, mate. I should link this to him after this recording, otherwise. And he and his friends has a league called I think it's called Liga Amoreira, and he sent me his the web page that they have, right? And I was so glad to see it's also like one of this official website looks, right, when they have their own design. And I should link it to you guys also after. I think I linked it to you, right, Daniel? Didn't
You
I?
did. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Where they have this. It's on YouTube also, and you can see the whole community meeting where they had the entire room filled with the guys sitting there, and it was like 30 people or something playing, and they had this lottery in front of everyone, and they discussed the league, and it was great fun to just watch it, right? And yeah, it's also one of those like you say, Graham, one of those things where you can extend the universe and you can take it outside the site, and that's the great thing about manager games. Also, I
yeah,
think you can
sure.
walk around with it in your everyday life and still think about it, and that way you also play the game, right?
Yeah,
In a way. So
absolutely.
yeah, for sure. If you got to choose anything you would like to do the most with Expert 11 right now, that you could just, oh, I would love to do this, what would you choose to do with it?
Me.
Yeah, you.
Uh,
Or was that the answer? Me.
yes, me.
Yes.
Full stop.
Exactly. Yes, precisely.
I'll
That's
tear
what
it
I would
down
like.
and build it back.
Yeah.
What would I do? What I
Yeah.
think I would do. One thing that's always annoyed me from the game is the actual fixture list. I
Yeah.
think if there was a way to make it more randomized, I think I would like it that way, because sometimes I just feel it can become a little bit predictable how things may go.
How much into the official league system are you right now in terms of when it comes to the fantasy world and Expert 11, once again, deep diving into the game part of it? Are you following like, Expert Champions League and the other sort of official leagues? Or are you more centered around, focused on your own teams and the latest team that you have also? Or
Yeah,
both, perhaps?
I'm I'm more to do with the classic league, and it's just purely because I haven't went that far in any cup competition, and I certainly haven't made it to the Champions League. But only recently did I actually just watch the Champions League game. Was that in January? I can't remember, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who's the top dog out of it all. It just seems to be condensed the way I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I would say that's also been sort of one of not problems as such, but I would probably say just because the site sort of had it's quieted down for like what is it now 5 years, something like that. But before last year, when we really sort of started to see the activity start to spike in different places on the site once again.
Right.
Which I guess also has to do with sort of the economics of the site starting at least to get better once again, finally, after the application being what that was in terms of economical disasters. As far as I know, I should say also. I've had these discussions with Frederick, the owner, right, and I sort of have to read in between the lines exactly how things went. Right? When we have discussed things, me and the current ownership, it hasn't been about give me your life story now, right? What went wrong? I want to hear it all from you, each and every detail. But yeah, but as an effect of that, at the very least, it feels like the game quieted down for a while, and it didn't really develop all those different the different options that could have been done in terms of trying to show, like you said, through social media or through any other place, basically, or through design or whatever. This is happening on the site right now. This is happening in the fantasy world right now.
Yep.
I think it's been easy to become sort of your own manager in your own head, sort of half isolated within the game for the last couple of years. And hopefully we can change that partly. I hope.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely going in the right direction, and the both of you seem to be motivated and making it happen as well. So let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Absolutely. And that's been also very encouraging because both me and you, Daniel, right? We came back to the game with it's only been a year for both of us, right? Basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to hear your voice also. Sorry, but hello,
Yeah.
Daniel.
I'm still here. I'm still here, hiding in the shadows.
Yeah. So, how do you feel after your COVID situation? My goodness, no, it's not. It's not easy with the voice breaking down, right?
Nope.
But yeah, I can say the same thing. Also, I have to excuse myself for you as well as for the listeners that I can feel my own voice also after half an hour it takes after the last time I had COVID. Now, and the voice starts to sort of slowly crack, right? So it is what it is. No, but what I was about to say is that when we got into the game and the site was like in many ways extremely quiet. It really was. It was like
Yeah.
surprisingly quiet. And all we've done so far, both now when I've actually started to work with it, but also beforehand, is that you sort of poke around, throughout the site a little here, and you start to talk to people there, and you start to engage with. You just dig a bit under the surface of the game, and you realize that it's been not a fanatical sort of extreme activity in friendly leagues and such, but it's still a lot of people playing, and there's a lot of activity going on the site, and it's been more about trying to showcase that now. That's all we've been doing for a couple of months, more or less, basically. Me and Daniel, I say, before actually starting to work with it, that sort of showing people, well, they are doing stuff, and they are doing stuff, and we are doing stuff, and just the reactions from that has been it's been great, basically, right? So imagine what we can do when we actually get now when we are starting to work with it also, and hopefully bringing in some new managers to the game as well, right? So
Yep.
I think it's going to be real fun, I think, for
I
sure.
think it'll encourage current users as well to like be able to offer up any type of idea or any skill as well.
Yeah.
Like why not? Like
Yeah,
we're
for
here for
sure.
fun.
Yeah. That's the whole thing about it, right? Like we wrote when we started write to one another, and you offer your help with the graphics for to me in a direct message, right? That we it
Yeah,
seems like you and I we have the same mindset, and also you, Daniel, of course, that things should be when it comes to gameplay online, it should be fun also, right? It really should be about fun and doing things when you enjoy it, when you really have a passion for it, like you say yourself, right?
indeed.
And I
Agreed.
think that yeah, right. And I think that's part of a thing that has been understandably lacking for many different reasons, from ownership up until this point. Um, I would say. So it's been great to see that sort of come back once again in a way, and actually to see that kind of an energy coming back into the game also, and that's something that anyone can help out with, I would say. So
I felt since we started scratching on the on, I mean,
yeah,
it's forcing the activity on people pretty much.
yeah,
People just they want to be part of it, so they more and more are getting active again. Just typing more, just I mean, being more active in general. Because I
yeah,
think
Indeed.
people who were active would still would have liked to be active all the time, but when the site died down, everyone just kind of yeah, I'm doing my stuff over here. Don't yeah, they just closed themselves off from each other and just kept going because they just I need to win that trophy. I need that. I need that. But activity is still there, but it's just been hidden. And and yeah, with the podcast and stuff, people are starting to yeah to be more active again and just
Yeah,
showing up. I mean, just check out the Discord. I mean, the Swedish forum has been since I started playing again. It's been completely dead. I mean, it's been non-existent pretty much. But the Discord is there's a lot of people uh, typing and being active and asking questions and stuff, and that's so. I mean, there is a need for it, but people just didn't know where to turn. I think.
yeah, that's
I'm
right.
going to have to interrupt and say I need to go and pick my car up now,
Oh yeah,
guys.
that's right.
So apologies. I
And
shouldn't be less than 15 minutes or so. We can pick back up again if you've got time, but if not, that's completely fine.
yeah, I think we could try to pick it up again, I guess, because I will have to be at work for a meeting at 4. That's 3 o'clock your time,
Right.
Graham. But I think we should be able to pick it up for a brief moment at the very least.
Okay.
Maybe we should take an interruption like this. Let's play some music now. Here's here's from Sweden. Thanks for the music. Almost won. Almostone. So and we pick it up after the music, right? So
Right. Brilliant, guys.
right.
I'll not be long. Thank you.
That's all right.
Ain't it crazy? Such a beauty. Life's a mystery. Wasting days makes nothing at all. By the sidelines, and I wonder, there's no rerun, no rewinding, nothing's undone. Wasting days when I'm not in your arms, baby. By the sidelines, and I sing my song to anyone. When I'm not here.
So that's some music then for you, which also feels sort of strange to say when we are recording this without having the music. That's how new we are into the whole podcast experiencing, me and Daniel, right? But welcome back after the music, and thanks for that, almost one. And during that short break of just a few minutes of music, you managed to get your car back, Graham, right? So
Yep.
fast
Back-
driving, right?
Back in one piece.
That's great.
It might be a Volkswagen Golf, but it drives like a Ferrari now, so we're okay.
That's good. That's good. And well, we actually managed to regroup also before starting to press the record button again and say that maybe I should actually just quickly tell all the listeners what the whole community manager expert 11 team thing is about also. Just to give you all of the listeners a heads up on what is happening on the site as well, right? Or what's has been behind the scenes, but are now sort of at the center stage, I guess, or not center stage, perhaps. Well, out in the air at least, out in the open, because we are. I've become community manager for the site for Expert 11 as such. Also on a voluntary basis, but with a contract, so to speak, right? In a way. So I'm not before everyone gets mad and why does he get all the money and all the free stuff? I don't actually. I'm still trying to voluntarily help out, but it is actually it is in an official sense, and yeah, and it is perhaps with plans of actually being involved, also getting a salary in the future. But I don't lift money out of Expert 11 right now. I try to get all the money that goes into the site right now channeled to our programmers instead, because I think it's more important that it ends up there rather than in my pockets for doing things that I would do anyway. I guess, right? So, but the whole community management thing, at the very least, it's about trying to reboot the social media channels. Partly that what we've been speaking about, also trying to build the fantasy world stepwise in order to actually let members of the site know what's happening in the fantasy world, but also to be better to communicate in a way what we are doing as a company, basically. Because I'm not only speaking for myself. I know there has been a number of reasons why Expert 11 ended up the way it did in terms of lack of like we said before, lack of joy, basically. Pressure out of things not going the way the former ownership group wanted to, and I think it's been depressing times for the owners, actually, to be honest, because I don't think they foresaw what happened to the site when it did. But right now it's more about that has been leading to the communication being yeah, well, awful. Yeah, really off. It's been there's no excuse for it, I would say, and I think I know that the owners are basically, just agreeing with that fact. It is a fact. There's no way, no need for trying to explain that away or something, or excuse that away. It's been what's been, basically, right?
Mhm.
And now we're sort of trying to start up the communication again, trying to be able to be better at showing what type of work the site is trying to do right now in order to actually try to develop the game. once again, step by step, and doing that in a pace that isn't really. That is what was before, centered around trying to get a lot of members in very fast, very quickly, and the whole game sort of exploded in terms of activity. And a lot of those players were sort of players who they went for the application, the app game, and then they sort of left after a while. Many of them left basically. And I think now the aim is to work, or no, I know the aim is to work in a better pace actually, and sort of try to do what we love and what we like to do with the site also. And I think actually, to be honest, and I've told Frederick and all, the other guys myself that also that's the only way to work with a game such as this. It really is. It really should be. So yeah. So social media, if you have any suggestions about collaborations or anything, like with graphics, with video, with music, with the design, with helping out with, yeah, it could be doing social media stuff better than I do also, for God's sake. Just be sure to send me a direct message, anyone who listens to this, because it's been, I've already got a lot of suggestions and good feedback, and it's been extremely fun actually the last 4 weeks also. And I will be sure to post a progress report also about my work on the site, about once a month or so also, so people can see what I actually do with it. But I think to sort of wrap that thing up, the good thing about the whole community manager thing was actually to be able to show that the game isn't about to die out, at least not from an ownership point of view. But rather there is still motivation to have keep this game going and actually develop it. And I think that's the fun part about it. So, yeah.
And there's plenty there to develop as well. I mean,
sure.
it doesn't stop being a bad game.
No.
There's just a few little tweaks that need to happen to bring the game to the zeitgeist of the moment, sort of thing. Because there's a division in the Classic League, a Division 6 tier, and it was full of bot managers. And I just think of all those teams just meandering and doing nothing.
Yeah.
This is a sign of you don't have that many managers anymore. So we got to try and condense it a bit and make it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, for sure.
And in my head, that's a minor tweak to the game to keep it relevant.
Yeah.
But I'm no programmer. I don't know how that affects the rest of the game happening. What changes. So that's, as I said before, I've no solutions. I've just got certain ideas, and yeah.
Yeah, and I can personally say that I know there is thoughts about how to tweak the game, but I'm not going to say exactly what I've heard through the programmers and throughout, because I don't want to start this whole thing over again by putting indirect pressure on them in order, that I give promises that I've heard this and I've heard that. And then people can say, when is this about to happen? When is this about to happen? Because that's where it ends up usually, and it should also. It's a good thing because there is a lot of people who wants activity, and that's a positive in my opinion. Really, it really is a positive thing. But I think for a website that has been starving for sort of changes, I think it could put an immense pressure on like Sarde and the programmers right now in order to, we want to see this last week. What I'm saying, right? So yeah. But I know there are thoughts about it. Let's put it that way. Then we'll see what direction it goes in. But there are sure a lot of ideas who will bounce with one another in order to try to get development going, really. It's gonna be a fun year. I really do believe it's going to be a fun year. I wouldn't volunteer for this otherwise. So yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It is what it is, right?
It's going
That's
in a
it.
good direction.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, but since I'm actually since a couple of weeks or past, I'm actually a part of the whole company, so to speak. So you shouldn't take my word for it. But yeah, I really do. Honestly though, I really do think it's going in the right direction. I'm quite sure of it, to be honest. So yeah. I also know people have heard that before, me included, right? And you also, Daniel, also included, right? That there's change coming, and I don't want to put it there as such, but it's yeah. At least there's work being done. Let's put it that way then. At least there is work being done. Then when the changes are coming, it's I'm not gonna make any haphazard promises out of that, but it is a work in progress. It is for sure. So
Yep.
that's good also. So let's get back to it, right? Let's get back to it with the whole gaming podcast that we're doing as well, right? Should we talk about Scotland, or should we talk about and gaming, or should we talk about the whole cheating thing to put another positive spin of this? Right. What are you most up for, guys?
I'm up for both. Whatever you wish to do.
Yeah, sure. Now let's take Scotland. Let's start with Scotland then, right? And with you're from Fife in Scotland, as far as I've read online, or is that true? Or is
Yeah,
it? Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
close to
Um,
Edinburgh then, right?
Yep. We're across the water from Edinburgh. The Kingdom of Fife. It's a beautiful place, so it is. And my hometown, I don't live there anymore, was Dunfermline, and that's actually the ancient capital of Scotland.
It is. Oh,
Yeah.
my.
And there's quite a few historic places there. And the football team itself, although they're doing really badly right now in the Scottish Championship, but they were bought over by a German consortium last year, and I don't think the consortium has a majority stake in the club yet, but that's certainly the idea. So it looks as though Dunfermline Athletic are going to be a team that will be recognisable in the next 5 years, I would say. They've just started building a youth academy, which it's never had. Or if it's had it, it's been in the... nothing like these days where you actually have a facility. They're actually building that, so they're looking to the future. But as I say, they're doing terrible this season. They're on the verge of relegation. But I've been no doubt in my mind they will be in the Premiership in the next at least 3 years.
Oh well, I see. Well, that's
Yeah.
at the very least that's nice with progress, right? In terms of for the club as such, right? So
Absolutely.
you're not a big Hibernian guy then if you move close to Edinburgh,
Nope.
or nope, not at all.
Not a fan of Hibernian or Hearts.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not really a fan in Scottish football. It's mainly Sampdoria that I'm into. I like the Italian league, but I would say I support Dunfermline, and an even local a team close to us has just come up into the Scottish league, Kelty Hearts. They were a junior team, but this is their maiden season in the professional leagues in League Two, and they're absolutely romping the league. They're about 13 points clear at the top of the league. They're destined to win that league, and it's such a remarkable journey that they've been on. So yeah, watch out for Kelty Hearts.
Yeah, sure. That's
Um,
great. I think when it comes to Scotland, I think you guys are really sort of famous for the intense derbies that you have, right? In terms of it
Very good.
seems from the outside looking in, that there's a very great sort of fan base from the roots, really, with many teams in Scotland. Is that something that we just sort of an image that are projected that we sort of doesn't really? Is it like that in reality also, or is it just seemingly from Sweden that's the case that the
Yeah,
football is a very big thing in Scotland as well?
it pretty much is. I would say the obvious two, Rangers and Celtic, they just seem to have fans everywhere. But if you speak to a Motherwell fan, then more likely they are from Motherwell, which is also in Glasgow.
Yeah.
But if you say if someone says they're a Rangers fan or a Celtic fan, then they're usually born, say, in the Shetland Islands or something like that, and they've got this weird connection to the Glasgow clubs. But I get it at the same time, both of them have been hugely successful on the domestic front, and it's obvious that the top two teams are going to draw the most amount of supporters. But what I like about Scottish football more than anything is the fan base and how loyal they are to their local team. I like that. It's a sense of being, and the football club does become a part of the community, and it's not the clubs are not big enough here that they become estranged from the fan group. Whereas I think, well, I have an overwhelming feeling from the Premier League down in England that it just seems to be, I don't know, a slight disconnect between the fan and the actual club itself. But up here, it's very desperate type football as well, which I love. There's crunching tackles, and nobody's complaining away about playing in heavy rain and wind. It's just they get on the park and they fight against each other. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's really a game for sure, right? It's a
Yeah,
real battle,
absolutely.
right? That's great to hear. That's great to hear. I love football when there's a lot of heart to it, so to speak, right, in terms of intensity and
Yeah, passion.
yeah,
They're
that's
more
right.
old school football.
That's right.
It sounds like how
Yeah.
it used to be in like England and everywhere else. Just that loyalty and just give everything you have kind of mentality.
Yeah.
It's not so money based.
I have an early memory. Now, this might have been in fact, it would have been the 80s, but I cannot remember when this happened.
Yeah.
But I seem to remember there was football fans coming out of Waverley train station in Edinburgh, and I'm sure there was like a firecracker or something went off, but I remember being absolutely terrified about what was going on.
Yeah.
And remember my mum going, "It's those football hooligans again," and blah blah blah. But I can't pinpoint a time or the year of when that happened, but it was just I knew there were football fans and some sort of firecracker went off. And this was right outside Waverley train station. If I remember correctly, I was young at the time.
Oh my
But
goodness. A good
and
introduction to the world of football then, right?
then yeah. But when I learn about the different types of factions within British football as a whole, it's very it's almost like they have this fight club mentality as well, where they actually arrange to meet up with other fans and just have a fight before the game.
That's right. That's right.
Crazy what people get up to and crazy what people enjoy.
Maybe that's something we should try to introduce in Expert 11 as well, right? So, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
classic league game coming up on Wednesday. Where do we meet up? What parking lot, right? So let's go 10 minutes before the game.
Yeah, you got
Well,
the
at least I want to
UC.
fight. Yeah, at least I want to fight. I'm from Scotland, so right? You know the drill, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
yeah, it's pretty lively over here. The game suffers from a lack of funding, but
Mm.
I don't know if I'm okay with that as a whole, because I just don't want money to ruin what it is up here.
I understand that as well, right? Because that's like you said, Daniel. That is seemingly actually for real quite a problem in terms of the English Premier League when it comes to the whole the local fan base, basically of big teams at the very least. It is not an easy situation when it becomes so monetized as it has been in the last couple of years, right? So, yeah, where you can't even go to a game basically if you are local. So
Yeah.
that takes away a bit of, even if it's understandable with. There's a lot of fans from all over the world of many of the big Premier League clubs, of course, but still, it feels like it takes away a bit of the whole soul of the game. Also, when it becomes too monetized in a way, right? So,
Yeah.
then again, you also want your club to have at least sufficient funds to exist and be competitive, also. So there's always a balance, of course, there as well, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. And it can lead to financial ruin for some clubs just trying to compete. It's a crazy situation. If anything, if a bubble is to burst, it's the English Premier League, because it just cannot continue this way. I just can't see. For example, I think their broadcasting deal is with Sky. Now, Sky's propped up that league for, I mean, that must be going back into the 90s. And that money can't continue, surely. And I just can't see any of those teams being self-sufficient enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they are dependent on the money from the TV deals.
Yeah, crazy.
But it's too much money in sports in general, I would say. I mean, they're playing football. Sure, you play football, you train and stuff. Your life for a couple of years is complete football. But I mean, you're making people who are they're not even in the top clubs, and they're millionaires.
Yeah.
I mean, they live like rock stars did do. I mean,
Yeah.
to drive sport. I mean, it's stupid. It's too much money in the game. They need to like a pay roof. I don't know what's it called. Pay limit. You can't give.
Yeah. Like a cap, a pay cap.
Yeah. Pay cap. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
you should know that, Daniel. Since we actually have a friendly league in our own Expert 11 with a transfer cap, right? You should know the word for it.
Very advanced. Like it.
Yeah,
Nice.
very advanced. It is actually quite fun. It's quite fun, quite challenging, but it is very. No, but that's actually a good idea. I think also like with the National Hockey League and the American system, actually in that term there's a salary cap. And I mean, teams are still very good, of course. That's not an issue. It's more about the whole, not the insane levels of salaries, basically.
I mean, to kick a ball around for like 10 years if you get a good career at the top level.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're a multi-millionaire. I mean,
some people hardly even kick the ball and get paid
ridiculous
amounts. I mean, I read about Lukaku. His touch rate a couple of games ago was just poor. There was no other words for it. He only had 8 touches throughout the whole game. That guy gets paid like what, minimum of £200,000 a week.
Yeah, a week. Yeah. I mean,
incredible.
They paid several times more a week than people get paid in a month, pretty much. It's crazy. It's just stupid. I mean, they should be well paid because they have like a lot of tension on them and stuff, but not that well paid.
Absolutely. I mean, you just need to look at Ronaldo and Messi, and then ask yourself in a realistic way how much money goes into maintaining them as a footballer. Is it £500,000 a week? Or
most likely, most likely it's around that range, right? Yeah, it should be around
crazy.
that range.
And you would say they probably deserve the money because they're incredible at what they do. But what is the deserved pay rate? That's the crazy thing within football.
Yeah, definitely. And there's always the counter argument with people spending time away from the family and stuff. But to be honest,
Yep.
like you say, there should be a limit to what is not like basically crazy money, right? Because there's always going to have to be, of course, there is when there is personal sacrifice, but that's not the only area of work in the world where there is personal sacrifice involved, basically, right? In terms of what they are employed doing, right? So yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's just crazy. It's
if they
insane.
paid me that money, I mean, I could be isolated for 10 years. I'm good with that. I just tell mom and dad, yeah, no, I'm not going to talk to you for 10 years. But when I'm back, I'm rich and we all will have a good life. I mean, for
My
that money,
voice,
for
my
that money,
voice will be
sure.
better by then.
Yeah,
Admit it, mom and
yeah.
dad, you won't miss me anyway, right?
But I mean, it's worth it.
That's
I mean,
kidding.
10 years from your life. I mean, and you're still famous and stuff, and you get attention. It's
Yeah.
not maybe the good attention, but it's attention at least, and you get to talk to other people. You just don't get to talk to your family. Fine, I can sacrifice 10 years for that, no problem. If I'm a multi-millionaire after, so
To make a segue out of that, just because now it's I'm looking at the clock right now, and in 15 minutes time I have to take my car to work actually to go for a job meeting, right? So, so I'm taking the whole that whole conversation and taking a segue into speaking about attention and not good attention, right? Is that a segue that's good enough? Yeah, that has to work. It has to do at least.
Yep.
yeah, it works.
You guys, of course, have seen the whole Kryo rule Prestia manager thing, I'm quite sure, and also the Igor Ash thing on the site.
Yeah.
When it comes to as far as you actually translated Igor Ash and the whole his conversation about player transfers on Expert 11,
Yeah.
Graham. Are you also aware of the Kryogenisatu rule suspension also, by the way?
No and yes.
Yeah.
And I say that in a way as expecting it, but yeah, I posted a translation of it because at first I wasn't really interested because I thought it was drudging up an old scandal, and then when I looked over, I was translating little bits of it, and then for some reason I don't know why I just didn't copy and paste it all together. I was doing it stupidly little bits at a time, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting to read. This is actually from someone who has participated in the cheating.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when I just decided to post it.
Yeah, it was a good read also, and I can really recommend all the listeners out there, to go to the English forum on the site also and read in the column in the expert forum. Let's see what the new scandal with multiple accounts, I guess, is the title of it. And there has been with Igor Ash, I think it was primarily friendly leagues where it was a setup where people were buying players from each other, if I recall it correctly, right?
Yeah.
With him precisely.
Yeah.
So they had set numbers and dates when I'm gonna sell my player then and there, and you will buy this player for that amount of money, and then I will earn this and that amount, and so on and so forth. And we cryogenisate rule, who is now his Prashtia team, which has been fined, I think, 50 million 50 million basically in
Wow.
fines, and it's in the Expat Champions League right now, managerless as it stands. And in that specific case, I think it was more about most likely what it seems to be multiple accounts at the very least, with one player jumping around. There has been an explanation from Jenny Saturul himself about actually having some sort of a stalker who followed him and bought all his players from different teams for a lot of money, trying to ruin his career on Expert 11. Which, to my knowledge, he hasn't really reported that before. So it seems kind of yeah.
Seems
Yeah,
unlikely, to be kind. That's the casual way of saying it. It seems unlikely.
yeah, that's right. That's right. The excuse rings sort
Yeah.
of in a way when you hear it afterwards. But what do you guys think about cheating in game like that? To me, it really we've been speaking about this also, Daniel, many times. That it's just honest, like I would never be able to enjoy playing a game cheating, knowing that you have an advantage like that. To be honest, it just feels so hollow in a way, that kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
It would totally, for me, even if I know that like 10,000 other guys did the same thing, if there was one guy, in the last one who didn't know the secret, so to speak, who was sitting there at the bottom of the table, I would feel like, no, my victory isn't worth anything, basically, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
not playing with a fair setup. Um, how much cheating have you encountered, and what do you think about that in terms of gameplay in manager games?
Uh, well, I would be highly surprised that cheating didn't happen on the site, just like within any game.
Yeah,
At least it's one of those real life characteristics that the game has.
yeah,
I mean, it can go as far as match fixing, stuff like that. And here's the thing: you can't control it, so it only really affects you once you actually understand the knock-on effect of the cheating.
yeah,
Other than that, you go, how did he get that team? How
yeah.
has he managed to get a 19-9 skill or something like that?
That's right.
And
That's right.
so, I mean, it's the same thing in real life. You've got clubs paying over the odds for seemingly average players, but behind the scene, then there's a breakdown of why that fee's that high.
Yeah,
It's kind of the same thing. It's like trying to bend the rules as far as you can bend them before you completely break them.
that's true. That's true, of course. And it is kind of a tricky one, the whole thing about when there's a thing about buying players for a little bit over the market value many times, because it could always be argued in this case that no, I really wanted that player. It is kind of hard to come with hard evidence against, this is actually cheating, or this is just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gray area in terms of actually banning players from the game also. So
Yeah, but I bought a player for my senior team,
yeah,
a 17-year-old defender with a really good skill and
yeah,
compatibility. I would take a vanilla with excellent compatibility over a poor, talented player, right?
yeah, yeah, sure,
Uh, so I paid about 3 million for this 17-year-old, right?
yeah, yeah,
And in my head, I was thinking I'm paying way over the odds, but at the same time, I'm justifying it in my head. I don't mind paying 3 million for this player because he's not only is he talented, but he has the excellent compatibility.
yeah,
Now,
precisely.
when I read about what other people are actually using the game for, which is to manipulate it somewhat and, you know, buying a player like for 2 million over his valuation really screws with the market's valuation, then I can start to think, well, maybe I'm paying it because someone is up to no good somewhere else in the market. But then I can't be too sure. So
Yeah,
that's a perfect situation. I wanted this player. He ticked everything, and I paid over his evaluation to get him, and I'm quite happy with it now. But
yeah.
whether or not it's because of value manipulation or what, I couldn't tell you.
No, that's true. That's true. And in a way, also, of course, one has to still try to, no matter what other, basically, I think one has to not let the cheaters ruin the game experience for you yourself, also, right? as long
Sure.
as you have to sort of try to play the game in order to also make yourself happy. And of course, it's a game like like any game or any sport when it's partly result based. Of course, it's always a travesty, right? When it comes to coming up against teams who are better because of cheating, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, also, I think that's also one of the parts with us who are really who have some sort of an affectional value for your fantasy team. Also, you try and do a good job as a manager for real. That's also giving in itself.
Yeah.
At the same time at the same time as a majority of the game doesn't actually consist of cheaters. I hope. Sincerely
Yeah.
hope, right? So
And that's the healthiest way to look at it, because we're all in, the majority of us here are wanting to play this game, right?
yeah, precisely.
And there's only just a handful of people that just want to come in and claim all the adulation
Yeah.
from nefarious means. And if that's what they've got to do it, then fine. But I think there's one or two users on there on the site, and I won't name them, but I know they can be suspicious of users. So it's not just the actual crew that look into this. There's a lot of users that I feel take a deep dive into a team if they think something fishy is going on.
Yeah,
So
precisely. And speaking of that, also I would really like to thank I think it was mostly the support group and the support crew actually in this instance who actually managed to break the cheating of cryogenesis at the rule. And for all of you who listens out there, still, continue to send reports to the Expert 11 crew about this kind of cases, really, because even though in relative terms, I guess we are undermanned in a way, but we will look to. There is still work being done trying to prevent it, right? So don't stop reporting suspicious behavior. No, it will be. We will get to it sooner or later, at the very least. And it's always a shame when it's later rather than sooner. But it's not from lack of trying, at the very least, I guess. So
indeed, yeah.
So that's what it is. It's a bit of a shame. I really do think that I have to sort of wrap this up for myself, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry for listeners also, right? Because my my actually paid job are waiting for me in about 25 to 30 minutes time right now. So it is
Ignore.
what it is. It is
Tell
what it
them,
is.
just give them a phone. Say,
Yeah, that's right.
not today, guys.
I'm recording my podcast with Graham and Daniel. I want to keep doing that, right? But so I'm sorry. I have to wrap it up in order to get to work. But it's been a pleasure, Graham, having you
Yeah.
on the podcast, and really would enjoy to speak to you once again. Also, of course, as you already know, mate. But it's been great to have you on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great. And hope you get better, Daniel. Your voice.
Thanks.
This might get you into music. You
Yeah.
must start singing in the shower. That will improve your voice.
Yeah, as long as you don't
disturb my
record it, mate.
neighbors.
Yeah, that's true. As long as you don't record it and send it to us, mate, right? Oh, but sincerely, no, you should get into more music then. You really should. That's right.
Yeah, I probably should. I don't know where to start, so I don't start.
Oh,
Pretty much.
fair enough. Fair enough. For all of
Well,
you guys out there listening, thanks for listening. I'm sorry for cutting this one short. We will get back. We will be back with the podcast as soon as we can, as soon as we can put it into our everyday lives. Also, be sure to look us up on Discord as well. I will try to promote the Discord link in the articles and on YouTube and. The podcast is just for fun. It's on Spotify and on YouTube, and I will try to link that as well, of course. Yeah. With that said, thank you, guys. Get
Bye,
back
everyone.
to you. Yeah. And also, I might add also at the very end, and we'll end this podcast with playing Tomas Rimeika Karlsson's song also. Yeah, so Thomas, make sure to give him some love also and his musical contributions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap.
Nice one.
Jag var 20 och jag sprang mot en dröm som ropar kom. Det var någon som sa mitt namn, men det var för sent att vända om. För sent i tysta skogen. Jag ville bort, för ingen vän var kvar där jag lekt som barn. Jag ville fram, jag ville se om min eld kunde lysa upp scenen. För Karin skrev någonting innan vi fanns, men hennes ord är eviga. Vi är i rörelse, den nya dagen gryr. Och jag försvann ut på äventyr. För där jag växte upp, på ett hus vid Sifela, stod konsten är lång och livet kort. Så jag sökte mig iväg, alla höstar snurrar fort, men jag sprang förbi det viktiga. Nu vill jag tillbaks till forsens sång. Vill känna kärleken, känna allt på samma gång. Är det för sent nu med? När Karin skrev någonting innan allt gick fel, och de där orden är eviga. Vi är i rörelse, den nya dagen gryr. Oändligt är vårt äventyr. Vänd om. Och jag vet inte om Otto skrev det där på huset, vid parken, i staden, vid forsen, vid drömmarnas gryning.